Hello everyone, welcome to Inain's Forensic Classroom. I'm Inain and I'm here to take you on an exciting journey into the world of forensic science, the real science behind solving crimes, uncovering evidences, and delivering justice. So in the last video, we have talked about how forensic science became so popular, from the TV shows to the real life cases, and how it's more than just crime solving. It's also a great way to learn the science. Now, in this video, we will deal with the question, what is forensic science and where did it all begin? In this video, what is forensic science? Where did it all begin? So we are going to discuss these two questions in this video. In order to really understand what forensic science is, we have to go back in the time. We have to go back to the ancient Rome. So what happened in ancient Rome was the Roman Senate used to hold meetings in the public place. So all of the meetings were in the public place, and this public place, they called this public place as forum. The name that was given to the public place is forum. So if you see, the forum is a Latin term which actually means public. Forum is a Latin term which means public. So what happened in these meetings was anyone could come, watch, listen, and witness some important discussions and debates that used to happen in those meetings. And now that I have told you, this forum is a Latin word which means public. I would also want to tell you one thing. So during the session, I will write down some important definitions or maybe some important keywords. So please take notes, or you can also take some screenshots of the slide if it helps you to learn better, because these definitions or some keywords are very important if we talk about the exam perspective, whether you are preparing for UGC NET or you're preparing for FACT or maybe just your college exams. These keywords or these definitions are really important. So please take a note of all of these things. And what happened from this forum, we get the word forensic. Yes, from this word forum, we get the term forensic. So when we say forensic science, we're actually talking about the science that's applied to the matters of the public interest. So if somebody asks you what forensic science is, what we can say that it is basically a science that's applied to the matters of public interest. Public interest. So if we look at the broader definition, forensic science simply means using scientific methods. It simply means using scientific methods in order to address the issues that would concern the public. Scientific methods to address the issues that concern the public. So if you have to describe what forensic science is, you can write about these two definitions. Now, although the definition that I've given here is quite broad and technically it doesn't have to involve crime. So in modern time, forensic science has come as the the application of the science. Forensic science is the application of the science which is specifically related to the legal or to the court related matters. Specifically related to specifically related to legal matters. I can stop here for a while you can take a screenshot of this, or maybe you can just note down all of these points. Yes, moving on. So today most forensic scientists works in the criminal justice system, but civil cases are also a very significant part of their work. So what kind of science count as forensic science? This is a major question. Like if we say that forensics is an application of the science, so what do you think, which science can count as forensic science? So here's the most surprising part. Any science that you study, any science can become a part of the forensic science as long as it has a role in delivering justice. Yes, so any science can be a part of forensic science as long as it helps, as it helps in delivering justice. Yes. So now if we think about many fields that could help us solve the crimes, we can talk about biology, we can talk about chemistry, physics, medicine, even psychology, sociology, mathematics, and some business practices as well. The possibilities, if we talk about that, are nearly endless. Of course, there are some sciences that are more commonly used in forensic context. We'll get into those later. But the point here is forensic science is a very big tent. And all of these sciences which can help us in delivering justice remain inside those tent. So remember, any science that can become forensic science if it serves justice. This is a very important point to be noted. So at its core, forensic science is about applying the scientific methods in order to solve the crimes and support the legal system. It also involves collecting, analyzing, and interpreting physical evidence. So if we talk about the proper definition of forensic science, you can write forensic science is about applying the applying scientific methods to solve crime and support the legal system. So what happens in forensic science? It majorly involves collecting. So we have to collect the evidence and then analyze the evidence in the laboratory and giving an interpretation that will lead us to the result or an opinion about that particular evidence, interpreting the physical evidence to uncover the hidden truth. Facts. So it also helps us to answer the questions like what happened, who was involved, how did the crime happen. So that's when forensic science makes it so powerful, because with forensic science it helps us to reconstruct the events. It helps us to identify suspects or the victims, and it also helps us to understand how behind the crime. How did it happen? Yes, it also helps us to understand the word how behind the crime. So going back to the history again, from the earliest times, physical evidences and its interpretation have always been central to the investigations, right? But it was really in the second half of the 19th century that science actually began to transform how criminal cases were investigated. Applying all the scientific methods improved the accuracy and also credibility of the conclusions drawn during the investigations. Back then, the police departments didn't have in-house forensic labs, so investigations really had to rely on the academic departments like chemistry or pharmacology in order to get the scientific input. So these departments had the knowledge, the instruments, and the expertise. Investigators would physically take the evidence to these places for testing, and eventually some police officers or maybe some police forces, they begin developing their own scientific units. And especially as crime increased with population growth, they had to make their own scientific units where there was a proper scientific team. So they could no longer rely on the veteran officers that had sharp memories, who just knew which gang was responsible. So they needed science to back them up with this. Now, if we look at it broadly, forensic science is that discipline of the science that focuses on the so forensic science basically focuses on the recognition, identification, evaluation, and individualization of the physical evidence. So you have to remember physical evidence. So you have to remember these 4 keywords, which is recognition, identification, evaluation, and individualization of the physical evidences. All of these helps us to deliver to justice. It uses the principles and the methods of natural science in order to serve to the criminal justice system. So if we simply put forensic science, it's the application of the science to the law. In very short definition, we can write forensic science is basically science plus law, application of science to the law. In real world criminal cases, forensic science actually played a very important role. They examined the physical traces that could either link to a suspect, or maybe linked to a victim or the crime, or maybe rule them out. These traces that help them to link back to the crime or to the criminal and the victim basically include blood, body fluids, hair, fiber from clothes, materials from a crime scene, for example, paint or glass, marks made by the tool. So when we go further into each subject of the forensic science, we will deal with all of these traces one by one. How shoe prints are important, tire tracks, the marks that are made by the tool, everything plays a very important role in the forensic science. Sometimes forensic scientists also go and visit the crime scene. So they help us figure out the likely sequence of the events. They identify the signs pointing to the suspect, and they also help in the search of the clues. So other officers work in the labs and they analyze the physical evidences, for example, drugs. They test the specimens from the people suspected of drinking or taking drugs, or they help us in investigating cases of suspected poisoning. So some specialize in the areas like firearms, ballistics, explosives, or checking the authenticity of the question documents. All of these subjects, all of these expertise we will discuss in the further videos where we are discussing each subject of the forensic science in detail. So when we talk about forensic science, we are describing the science that connect people, places, and the objects that are involved in the criminal activity. These disciplines not only help in solving and investigating the crimes, but it also plays a very big role in the civil cases too. So the term forensic science, if we split it into the two parts, it is science and it is forensics and science. Science is about the systematic methods that we use to understand the physical world, and forensics, as we now know, comes from the Latin word forum, which means public, which refers anything related to the court or legal matters. So that's why even today debate teams are often called as forensic teams, because they actually deal with people, public speaking and argumentations. So together, forensic science is the profession of scientists who apply their knowledge to answer the legal questions, whether it's the written reports or by testifying in the court of law. So if you found this video interesting, please give it a like, share it with your fellow enthusiasts, forensic enthusiasts, and don't forget to subscribe to Inain's Forensic Classroom. In the next video, we'll be dealing with history of forensic science. If you have any questions, suggestions, or you have any curious topics that you want me to cover, please drop them in the comments. I will love to hear from you. Until next time, keep observing, keep questioning, and remember, every clue tells a story. See you soon. Bye-bye.